Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever in the world you are. One thing I like about Zimbabweans is we have a sense of humor. Um, this um, photo of this couple um, sniggering has been taking the rounds. This is a follow up to the recent Al Jazeera documentary, Gold Mafia, the laundry service, in which they revealed how much Zanu PF and their friends are looting the nation blind. And for those who do not know Shona, is the title at the top is one thing I like about Zanu PF is anorwadzisa, neakaivhotera. In other words, one thing I like about Zanu PF is they also make the people who voted for them suffer. But a close analysis of that will show that actually the joke is on us. We think we are laughing at the ZANU PF supporters who voted the party, and the reality is that we are actually laughing at ourselves. We are the business end of the whip. We don't have the thick end of the whip. Why do I say so? Well, simple. ZANU PF, we all know, has been rigging elections. Now, the art of rigging elections is that you make sure that the electorate believe that you won, that their vote counts, and there were majority out there who voted for ZANU PF. When in reality, that is not true. Zimbabweans have been busy blaming those who keep voting ZANU PF into power, not knowing that in reality, ZANU PF is creating that vote rigging, that majority to give itself the mandate. The 2008 elections were a watershed. People should not forget that. That year, ZANU PF was forced by SADC mostly to switch off its vote rigging machinery. And the nation came the closest it ever got to free, fair, and credible elections. And in the March 2018 elections, the opposition got 73% of the votes. But before the results could be announced, ZANU PF got to hear about it. And they switched back the vote rigging machinery. They stopped ZEC announcing the results. And they took over the process. And for the next 6 weeks, the party was involved in recounting the votes. And at the end of it, Morgan Tsvangirai's 73% was whittled down to a mere 47%, just enough to force the runoff. And during the runoff, ZANU PF used violence, some of the worst electoral violence that the country had ever seen, and completely reversed the result. So that at the end of the runoff, Mugabe got 84% of the vote. That is what we are talking about here. Zanu PF is able to produce a Zanu PF victory out of nothing. So we think Zanu PF must be, somebody out there must be voting for Zanu PF. And we are laughing at them that the looting that Zanu PF has been doing, which was revealed in the Al Jazeera documentary, yes, it's hurting us, but it's also hurting those people who keep voting for Zanu PF. But if the full analysis was to be done, we may find that actually that is an imaginary number. There is no majority at all voting for Zanu PF. But one other aspect that we should also not forget here is the role of the opposition. The opposition is helping the ordinary people of Zimbabwe risk life and limb to vote the opposition into power. The party's name, MDC, was Movement for Democratic Change. But the reality is they've not brought up any meaningful change at all. One has got to ask what is going on here. The opposition, not only Zanu PF, the opposition is taking the ordinary Zimbabweans for a ride. Why has the opposition failed to implement even one meaningful democratic change in 23 years of them being on the political stage? In one part of the Al Jazeera documentary, they are talking to a Mr. Kamlash Patni, a Kenyan of Indian descent, who has been involved in the looting of diamonds, smuggling diamonds and selling them. In it, he boasts of how he, when he was in Kenya, started the smuggling of gold, and he managed to help President Arap Moi of Kenya, a dictator everyone would know, to survive by buying Arap Moi's critics and opponents, using the proceeds of the looted gold to buy off the opposition and the critics. When Arap Moi was removed from office, soon after that, this gentleman, Patni, left Kenya and settled in Zimbabwe. And he has been working in Zimbabwe, applying his expertise in smuggling gold, selling it on the international market, with buying it, with bringing in dirty money and so forth. And it is not beyond imagination, that he also has helped Mugabe and now Mnangagwa survive by buying off Zanu PF's critics and opponents. That will make sense in our case. The opposition had the opportunity to implement the democratic reforms during the GNU. That there cannot be any doubt about it. But they failed to implement even one meaningful reform. Not even one in 5 years. How is that possible? The simple explanation is they were bought off. Right now, one of the biggest problems we keep having here is the opposition continues to insist on participating in these flawed elections. So flawed. It really doesn't make any sense. Why are you participating in these elections that are so flawed? It is you cannot possibly win. And yet they keep on participating. Even some of the opposition leaders themselves have admitted that the process without reform is so flawed, it's totally meaningless to participate. And yet they keep on participating. The explanation for it? Simple. We think we've got an opposition when in reality, Zimbabwe's political opposition parties are opposition in name, but they are in reality Zanu PF operatives. They will participate in these elections to give Zanu PF legitimacy, no matter how flawed the process is. Never mind how meaningless their participation has become, they will keep on participating. So I would like to remind Zimbabweans out there that when we laugh at whom we think these ZANU PF supporters who keep voting for ZANU PF, we are actually laughing at ourselves. Because if the truth was to be someday revealed, we'll find ZANU PF was actually claiming that they've won the elections when they saw people who gave them the majority are actually ghost voters that never existed. They were claiming a victory when the opposition is actually 173%. How can 23% win over 73%? That's how vote rigging can be managed. And why is it the opposition is willing to accept such blatant, a blatantly flawed system? It's because the opposition have long since become a meaningful opposition. They are really, in reality, just ZANU PF in all but name. We are being dragged into the 2023 elections. And already it's self-evident that these elections are flawed. There is no verified voters roll. ZANU PF has managed to cherry pick the electorate to the point of denying 3 million Zimbabweans in the diaspora the vote, who constitute something like 37% of potential electorate. They have not implemented even one token reform as per the European Union recommendation. The European Union had the biggest observer mission in the 2018 elections. And after the elections, they produced a very detailed report and come up and made 23 recommendations that would have, if you implement these reforms, the election will be free, fair, and credible. Not even one reform has been implemented. And not only Zanu PF have ignored the report, the opposition too have ignored the report. Why? Well, one possible explanation is that the opposition are not who they are. They pretend to be the opposition, yes, but in reality, they are Zanu PF. And Zanu PF does not want the reforms to be implemented. I can tell you now, this MDC slash triple C will never ever implement any meaningful democratic reforms in Zimbabwe to ensure free, fair, and credible elections. That I can tell you now. If they fail to implement them during the GNU when they had the golden opportunity to do so, it is naive to think they can do so now. How long are we going to be deceived by both Zanu PF with his trickery on miscounting votes, where 23% becomes the winner? Somebody who wins 27% of the vote wins over that somebody who has won 73%. And how long are we going to continue being tricked by an upstart like Nelson Chamisa that I can win? I've got strategies on how to win rigged elections when everybody can see that he has none. It's just nonsense. He's just saying that to justify participating in an election that is so flawed. The process is totally meaningless. This is what we have got to wake up ourselves and realize. This is not going to change. It's us who've got to change. So the joke is not on Zanu PF, Zanu PF supporters, or Nelson Chamisa and his friends. The joke is on us. We are the victims of the misrule in Zimbabwe. And if we're going to correct it, we have got to correct it ourselves. Food for thought. Thank you and good afternoon.